Hello everybody and welcome back for another episode of Indie Impressions. My name is Nick and today we're going to be checking out a little experimental first-person exploration game from the Proc Jam 14 called Meadows by developer Tom Nullpointer. So what we're going to be doing here is wandering around an infinitely procedurally generated little island, and as you can see, it has been given the seed of a variety of different plant life that will actually pop up basically right wherever it gets the proper nutritional requirements fulfilled. So as you can see, we've got some blue plants here on the blue ground, we've got some green plants over on the green ground. But what's really cool about this is that you'll start out in a completely randomly configured island and watch as basically forests just spring to life all around you, and it's just a very relaxing, tranquil experience, and you know how much I love that kind of thing. Especially on the show, I like to bring these forward and cover them. There's not a lot to see, honestly, in this, but what's here is cool enough that I figured it was worth at least making note of because, well, I just really enjoy this sort of experience, and I love to see where this sort of framework and infrastructure could take us, especially when it gets adapted to bigger experiences, and I think right now, this framework could actually work really, really well in some kind of like well, I'm imagining like a first-person Wind Waker type thing, where we end up with an entirely new game every time you play it and can explore a vast sea full of islands of unbeknownst origin, full of treasures and, you know, all kinds of things like that. So it would be a real waste if I didn't at least regenerate this island a few times so you can see some of the other forests that might pop to life in front of us. So I think I should go ahead and do that a few times. It's as simple as just hitting R to reseed, and let's see what we got. Looks like some very monolithic and tall rocks sprung to life around us, and let's see where the plants end up being. I would kind of like it if maybe the scale was a little bit bigger on some of them. I think the developer actually wanted something like that too, to see, you know, actually hugely tall trees just popping up, as well as having some ambient wildlife and a variety of little interactive events that could show up too. I mean, this is kind of the Proteus theme, right? This is the same sort of idea, but a little bit different in that I don't think Proteus was really dynamically changing quite as much in that it was day and night and it was seasons, but we didn't really have plant life springing forth in front of us. We did have little like frogs and mosquitoes and things moving around, but it's not like it was dynamically shifting the general scope of the landscape. That's a really alien and cool looking plant that it seems to have generated. Imagine too if you could enter, find an island in the middle of the ocean and then the sun goes down and you realize it's all bioluminescent and like all the grass and all the plants that have grown up are all actually casting ambient light around you. How cool would that be? Or that you find like a little procedurally generated cave and you take it underground and then you discover some sort of crystalline structures in there and everything is just all glowing and cool. And, that's kind of the ambience that I'm getting from Meadows here, and I think what would be really sweet to see if this actually does get developed a little further. I also have a little bit of a Dear Esther vibe coming from this for some reason. Perhaps it's just the stoic, lonely nature of this being this kind of rocky island in the middle of the ocean. Nobody's really here for us to talk to. Maybe things are a little bit foreboding and lonely, like I said. So, I guess there's some commonalities there. And perhaps the soundtrack as well being a little bit on the ethereal side could also lend itself a little bit to that, too. I really enjoy these spaces that get created out of these towering rocks, especially when they have the dynamic shadows coming off of them. You end up with these valleys, almost labyrinthian in a way, that you get to walk between and see where the plants crop up. And they're just going to continue growing like this. I'm not sure they'll ever stop. One thing that the developer expressed in the description was that he wanted to have it so you could like pick up and move the plants around, perhaps cause mutations or have them, spread across biomes, which I think would be pretty cool as well. Interesting too that they have such different structures to them. Like that one off in the distance straight ahead of me seems to it's gone for a more vertical thing, whereas a lot of these seem to be going for a more horizontal thing. And I'm wondering if these are also, in a way, sort of like evolutionary counterparts to each other. Maybe they spread based on the form that one takes. Maybe from there, the fruit doesn't fall too far from the tree, as they say, and you'll end up with more plants of a similar nature nearby. Let's regenerate the island again. You do get a very different feel, too, just from having a pink sky as opposed to what we just had a moment ago. I think we have no rocks on this one. This is maybe one of the first ones I've ever seen with very few, if not no rocks at all. Let's walk around and see if there's anything going on over here. Also, it'd be kind of nice if I just do a quick little, time-lapse moment, just let everything grow up in front of me. There's no good point, though, to stand and look down at everything. And actually, I feel like it's a huge missed opportunity that we don't have the sun going overhead, or like the sky could be changing, you know, cloud cover, or, you know, wind blowing through everything. There is actually a little bit of wind shown on the foliage on the ground, and that's nice, but it's not like it's naturally occurring gusts of wind, which would be very nice too. I also really like those little firefly spark things coming up from the ground too. They almost remind me a little bit, though, of Radioactivity. Maybe I played too much of the Stalker games or something, but it does have that vibe to it a little bit. Oh man, that just big old bushy thing happened off in the distance there. What's that all about? I don't want to go investigate. Oh, it's actually not quite as big as I thought it was. The perspective got me there. I thought it was much further away, because it lined up perfectly with that, not horizon line, but that line in the distance where the ground was. Man, we got a very red-oriented island, it looks like, on this one. But imagine if this was like us traveling through maybe a year a second or something like that, and we were seeing huge redwood trees spring up and a forest go from a field to becoming just this towering spire of trees in every direction, and the ability to see that all flourishing and, you know, getting bigger and dying off and getting bigger and dying off, and the sun going by. Like, that's, I don't know, something about that seems so massive. I don't know, it seems like one of those things we would talk about if you're watching Cosmos or something, where we get to experience the world in all of its splendor at a high speed, or, you know, different tempo than we're usually aware of it at. And that's, you know, one of those things that games let us really play with, is the idea of perspective. And the way that we usually perceive the world is in this one particular increment of time, and it's so easy to imagine that shifting in either direction, or the scope of, you know, our size or our scale shifting in either direction too. I mean, imagining us as the size of like a 1-inch tall ant. Well, 1-inch tall ant is maybe even a bit drastic, but you know what I mean. A tiny little ant versus a massive, you know, Attack on Titan style giant creature. You know, this result in a very different perception of the world, I would say, and especially as it results to, you know, the organic life that we experience from day to day. I think there's a lot of very cool game implications there that have not been quite sussed out yet with the bulk of the things that we look at in the indie game world, or the game world in general. You know, that's actually very basic in terms of geometry, but it does some cool stuff with the way that the highlights work. From a distance, I thought these were actually kind of neon stripes kind of interspersed through there, but as it turns out, we've just got kind of a cross-section plus-shape design with these two interspliced planes. It's funny sometimes the things you can make out of very minimal assets, and sometimes they really work out very lovely. Such alien-looking plants. Really, really cool stuff. Too bad they don't have mass, unfortunately. It would be kind of neat to see how the terrain could actually be fractured or reformed based on having these bits of mass actually grow in between areas of playable space. And I think I'm going to regenerate the island one more time. Ooh, a very rocky one this time. Very oceanic feeling. And the color scheme here also very aquatic, too. And this one does have some nice vantage points. I think the rocks don't actually impede, though, to the growth of the organic life, which is maybe a little bit unnatural. So I'm pretty sure, yeah, you've seen some of these things growing right out of the rock surfaces, too. Not that there's anything naturally wrong with that, or intrinsically wrong with that, but maybe not what I would expect a lot of the time. I mean, most of the time, if you see anything growing on a rock, it's usually some sort of little moss formation or something not quite as towering as something like that. Maybe give it one more. This is, I mean, it's a cool-looking island, but at the same time, I can't really see much of it because there's so many rocks all in the way. And I know I just complained about wanting to see more rocks and having a better vantage point. The water also maybe leaves a little something to be desired. The way it kind of clips into the ground on the edges here is, well, it's so squared off, which is unfortunately kind of at odds with the very organic feeling of the rest of it. But again, I really love these little grottos that get created from these towering, tall, squared-off rocks. And it's kind of neat, actually, that the rocks aren't quite as organic as you would expect from real rocks in a way. It does give things a little bit more structure, but, you know, honestly, I get why it's happening. It's just because these are built in sort of cylindrical, or not cylindrical, but rectangular columns, and then they just sort of seem to have an organic roll to them, sort of a terrain map thing. I guess it knows when the terrain map is raised to a certain point, put a rock texture on it or something like that. You know, it's always interesting to me to imagine how developers have come up with the schemes that they have to have things procedurally generate. And this one is definitely in that same camp. Let's regenerate again. Ooh, very green world we've got here, and very plainsy looking. And it looks like no rocks here either, so I guess we go from one extreme to the other. Very, very pretty, though. I really like the flow of colors happening here as well. Going from these dark red crimsons into a yellow, into a green, and then to a lavender. Is this lavender, or is this more of a bluish? I don't know, it's somewhere in between. It's a gray-blue. Not sure why I, quibble over color identifications, but I seem to do it an awful lot. There's a little bit of a pink intersection between the blue and the red happening. That's kind of neat, too. Let's regenerate one last time. Oh, wow. Again, we've gone from one extreme to the other. It is kind of neat, too, to think about the implications of how you could direct the player through even a procedurally generated landscape like this. That the game might be able to be coded in a way that could sort of predict the way the player would move through the space, and then to craft an experience based on that idea seems really interesting to me. And I feel like this particular structure does a great job of that. I know it's accidental in this particular case, but I feel like that could be played to the strengths of some sort of an experience later on. I guess the game didn't know whether I was going to go left or right, or I should say the developer through the code didn't know where I was going to go there, but there were only a handful of options, really. Anyway, I guess that'll do it for Meadows, a very cool little tranquil experience. If you'd like to go experience this yourself, there is a free download available for PC, OS X, or Linux, so you can feel free to take your time and amble around and take in the sights and sounds of all of these various islands, regenerate them to your heart's content, find one that makes you feel happy, and perhaps even follow development of this, and I'm definitely going to be seeing where this goes in the future. I'm quite curious, and I would love to see this infrastructure be implemented into a larger experience as well. I know this is kind of what we're hoping from things like No Man's Sky, and I want to keep our feet firmly planted on the ground as much as possible, but, I guess I can't help but hope that something like this could happen in that as well. Regardless, if it comes across like this, well, that's some really good news. That is very pretty, what just happened over here. Anyway, that's going to do it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like on this video. It does help encourage the series to continue on. We are now past, I think this is like 951, episode 951 or so, and out of, we're going for at least reaching 1,000, so we've only got a little bit over a month or so left. So, leave your encouragement and support if you can. I do greatly appreciate it. I do read all the comments, so let me know what you thought of this as well. Go check out the game in the links, which are going to be in the description, or the link in which, in this case, it's actually got links to all the platforms within that one link. And I will catch you back for another one tomorrow, because new episodes of Indie Impressions go up every single day. Look forward to bringing you a whole bunch more, and I hope you have a fantastic night. Talk to y'all later.